We welcome Mr. Vinod and Mr. Senthil from Cognizant to present the paper. The topic is Assuring Best-in-Class Stadium Experience. Warm welcome to Vinod. Over to you, Vinod.
Good morning, everyone. This is Vinod, and I also have Senthil along with me. Our paper title is Assuring Best in Class Stadium Experience. What we'll talk through this over the next 30 45 minutes is how are digital technologies reshaping customer experience? What do we mean by stadium experience? And how do we assure for and how do we make sure that an exceptional stadium experience is provided, right? How do we assure for that, right? And let me start with talking about how digital technologies are shaping or reshaping customer experience, right? Technology is certainly reshaping customer experience. Advent of internet, web technologies, mobile, etc., have shaped customer experience in the last decade or decade and a half. Right, the next wave of experiences shifts beyond internet, web, mobile technologies and shift to a new dimensions of technologies that have emerged over the last few years. And how is this next wave of experience going to look like? This experience is going to be enabled with intelligence, enabled with virtual experience, enabled with edge, zero latency, and always aware experiences. Right, this intelligence is powered by AI/ML. Virtual is provided by AR, VR, MR technologies. Edge and zero latency is provided by cloud, 5G, etc. Right, while current decade has led us to be in an always connected kind of an experience, the next decade and these technologies, the emergence of IoT combined with these technologies goes into an always aware experience, right? So today we are at always connected experience, and the next curve that we see is in an always aware experience, and especially that applies largely for B2B segments as well, right? Today, leading industry analysts, Gartner, Everest, all pretty much are very upbeat about how these digital technologies are going to reshape the customer experience. I've given a few snapshot from Gartner to kind of represent what technologies and how that is going to how that is going to emerge over the next couple of years, over the next decade. While all of these technologies enable customer experience one notch up, but the power lies in all of these technologies coming together, integrating together, and providing a best-in-class customer experience. So, what does the integration of all of these technologies mean? It brings about an experience that is more smarter. It brings about smart things, right? All of these together bring customer experience, but when they work together, it's one level up, and it gets to the smarter experience, smarter devices, smarter things, etc. Right? I will dwell. This phenomenon of smarter things, smarter experience is not only specific to an industry; it cuts across all of the industries. Right? Today, if you like, you may see on the slide. Right? Today, it starts right from our homes. Right? Smart homes, appliances are becoming more smarter. Right from lighting to heating systems, all of these are becoming smarter. Hence, we get a richer comfort, a richer experience within our homes. Right, homes can now be monitored remotely, can now be controlled remotely. Right, so that is one of the. There are 6 use cases that I have presented about or across 6 industries where the concept of smart devices, smart experience is gaining a lot of traction. And one industry that has picked up very well already is the smart home. Right, and and uh, and it's not only about experiences that we get, that the customer gets a better experience that a customer gets. It also goes into operational and optimal savings across industries. Example, if I pick a smart factory, or if I pick a smart meter, starting from reducing the maintenance cost, starting from reducing to the repair cost, through proactive monitoring, through proactive alerts, and proactive decisions and proactive actions that are being taken. All of these, it also leads to both the smart experience, where it is when it's a customer facing, and when it's a backbone like a smart meter, like a smart factory. It also shifts beyond the experience, like I said, to also cost savings, right? And like I said, just to summarize, this phenomenon is happening across industries. It's happening from autonomous vehicles to smart hospitals, across these. And one of the use cases, newer use case that has started trending is the smart stadiums. Right, you may, if you have been following Olympics recently, you may have noticed that some smart experiences were already being provided as part of the smart stadiums, and hence we kind of pick this use case and we will dwell deeper into this use case. What does a smart stadium mean? How do we test? What are the different technologies that come together for a smart stadium, and how do we assure for those? Right. Let me start with explaining what technologies itself. I spoke about a lot of technologies. What technologies now are relevant and pertaining to the smart stadium experience, right? And all of these technologies make the stadium experience more more engaging for both the fan as well as shifts beyond from a fan standpoint. They're always I mean, it gives an ultra connected experience. It gives a highly engaging experience for the fans, right? Which has become the utmost priority for the stadiums, utmost priority for the sports clubs, etc. Right? It starts with that fan experience and also shift to other use cases. I'll touch on those, right? So, but like I said, starting with the fan experience, that ultra connected experience, highly engaging experience. The underlying technology behind those is 5G, which enables a high speed, which enables low latency. It also shift to IoT, which provides a smart location, smart tracking. It also cuts across AR, VR, which enables in providing virtual experiences. Those virtual experiences combined with some of these robotics and drones technologies, giving multi-dimensional views to a person that may be sitting in one location within a stadium, right? There is a lot of interest in making sure people buy the best seat within a particular stadium, and now that best experience in a particular location can be provided through a smart experience. Someone else that may not be sitting in that seat. Obviously, it does not provide the real experience, but it still gives you a virtual experience to be in that seat with near real experience, as close as it can be, right? Plus, beyond these fan experiences, there's also some of these operations and performance improvements from a player or team, which behind this is analytics and AI and machine learning technologies that are behind. So these, to summarize, 5G, IoT, AR, VR, cloud, edge, robotics, analytics. These are the technologies that come together to provide a new and innovative stadium experience. And just to prove the point, you can see the prediction on how much the stadiums are expected to be investing over the next 5 years, right? It is from today's investments, it is almost near tripling over the next 5 years. That is where stadiums are investing to make their stadiums more smarter, and provide this new experience to the fans and beyond, right? There is a lot of investment going to be happening, and like I said, I kind of touched on a point. I said it is not only about fan experience; it shifts beyond fan experience, right? It extends to providing a value add to the brand, generating more revenue, providing more brand value itself, right? Second, it goes into team player feedback amplification, right? A stadium being able to provide more statistics, more analytics that helps them in getting more feedback and more amplification of their performance. It all next another very important aspect that still has been traditional for very long is the stadium operations, right? So some of these technologies coming together, like the security cameras, like the IoT, these kind of blend together to be able to provide better and efficient stadium operations, which, like I said, has traditionally been a very traditional area. Not a lot of technology was there behind it, and today stadiums are now shifting to make their stadium operations as well to be more smarter. And this stadium experience kind of shapes into kind of dwells into two areas, right? One is providing an in-stadium experience once the fan is within the campus, and it also extends beyond the in-stadium to a set of use cases that for a fan before he comes into the stadium or after he moves out of the stadium, to be continuously engaged and connected with the fan, right? Which is covered in the out stadium experience. I think 80-90% of the smart stadium experience is within the in stadium, and I kind of will start dwelling a little deeper into some of these use cases, right? You may be able to see a stadium in the background, and on top of it a few use cases that I have named, right? Let me touch on top two, three of those, right? While within the stadium, right, the viewing experience of the fan is and can be enhanced by providing watching experience from various angles and various seats. Like I spoke about, I may be sitting in one particular part corner, one particular direction, particular seat in one particular direction, one particular corner, right? And if I want to know how how the same the same shot would look like if I was sitting in the front row, right? You could today you don't have a way to look at it, or you probably have a very less interactive one-way kind of a streaming that can be given to you, right? Whereas this AR VR, what it brings to you is that the watching experience from various angles, various seats, and this is powered, like I said, is powered by the AR/VR and the 5G technology. Second, if you have if I'm in the stadium, if I have missed one particular shot and something happened and I want to go back and relay that event, today there is only a one-dimensional way of that being streamed, right? Whereas with the AR/VR experience, if the fan missed to watch a particular shot, it can be instantly be replayed. It can be that fan will have the ability to control what he replays and from what perspectives he wants to watch it. Right? That is the real next level of an experience that can be provided to the user. Obviously, this can be provided in stadium. Some part of it can be also be provided for a user that may be watching remote through an AR/VR device as well, right? Another example that I'd like to touch on is within the stadium itself, right? The fan is very pumped up, very eagerly watching to know what is going to happen moment by moment, right? And his curiosity levels are high, and that is when the curiosity and the engagement can be further amplified through some augmented game analytics, game stats, etc. Right? Today, all of that for a user that may be watching through a television at home, there is a one-way, a non-interactive kind of an augmented experience that may be given, right? A player comes into let's say I'm watching a cricket match. A player comes into the field, and some stats are given on top, are overlaid on the field, right? As the player is walking in, you have in the background the stadium the stadium video. On top of it, you have some stats overlaid. Today, that is very one dimensional delivery to the customer with the AR/VR to the fan, right? Today, with an AR/VR, that experience can be provided within the stadium, outside within the stadium, uh, uh, in a much more interactive way. He can interact. He can choose what statistics he wants to see through that AR/VR experience, right? So that is around fan experiences. There are more use cases. Some of them are like in-app ordering, mobile payments, which are behind traditional mobile apps, and probably which have started emerging, right? I'll probably not dwell deeper into those. Right? I touched on AR/VR, player perspectives, 360-degree replays, and etc. Right. And next is brand value. Right. Surrounding a match, there is a lot of revenue, starting from seats, tickets cost to beyond the ticketing revenue. There is a lot of branding. There is a lot of to further amp. Next, like I said, is a team or player feedback amplification, stadium operations, etc. Right. So these are moving beyond the fan. Advanced game analytics, AR/VR enabled training sessions. Right. Some bit of it is already there today in terms of stats that are being provided to teams and players, but the AML aspect behind it, but the AR/VR enabled training sessions, VR enabled replays, and ability to be able to watch it in multi dimensions, in multiple angles, that takes this to the next level of team and player feedback that can be given back to them, right? Last bit I'd like to touch on is the stadium operations, right? On a day of a match, a crowd management is a nightmare for stadium operations, right? And that is where technologies surrounding facial recognition, technologies surrounding analytics, right? Help enable real-time crowd management, help enable access control, etc., and provide a much more efficient operations of the stadium, right? So these are the four layers in which the experience from a fan to revenue generate additional ways, additional means of revenue generation, personalized, targeted revenue generation, team player feedback amplification, and stadium operations. Right? These are the four dimensions in which a stadium can become smarter from a in-stadium standpoint. Next, like I touched on, is also features outside a stadium. Right? It is starting from booking of a ticket for a particular event, a match, or start or from arrival into the stadium, smart parking features, or arrival into the once I parked and then I navigate into my particular seat to smart seat navigation, seat location, quickest route identification. These are some of the use cases that are emerging for outside the stadium. Plus also social media, constant engagement, interactions, constant in-touch, personalized experiences, continuous engagement with the fan after he has left the stadium. Also, is another dimension of outside stadium experience that is emerging, which keeps the fan constantly engaged and makes him come back frequently. So these are some of the both in stadium and out stadium experiences. Maybe I will take another quick 1 or 2 minutes to show some real examples. Right. So, for example, Ruku's over the next 2-3 slides will show some actual examples of the use cases that I had touched on to prove the point that these are very much emerging, maybe at the early stages, but very much emerging, but really not theoretical or not too far-fetched. And like I said, over the next 5 years, triple investments are coming in, right? And here I'm just trying to prove the point that some bits of these have already been there. Maybe not all use cases built to the maximum possible extent, and that is what will happen over the next couple of years, right? So in this feature, what you can see is when a person is attempting to book a seat at that stage itself, he is able to see if he is depending on the seats that he chooses, how will the viewing experience be, right? So he can choose multiple seats and then see in each of the seats how will his viewing experience be. So a smaller use case from a VR standpoint to provide more a better experience in that ticket booking stage itself. Second, in the Tokyo recent Olympics, you may have noticed that there was a live 3D VR that was already being streamed by NBC, right? So this is another live streaming through a virtual environment that had happened, right? Unlike a traditional TV watching experience, this live streaming went into the next level, providing it through a VR kind of an experience. Similarly, this is again very similar. I've just taken it from two different events that had happened recently. Some more examples of how immersive experience are provided within the stadium. Smart parking, how advanced game analytics are rendered in an augmented fashion, how a person can interact, how a person with the mobile can interact with an augmented experience and get better, more personalized stats as well. How queueless, ticketless entry. These are use cases that have been implemented. Like I said, maybe not every use case in one particular place, but across different places, and these are emerging and these are getting built. In-app ordering to player perspectives, right? Just prove the point. I kind of showed more examples, more and more examples around those, right? Engaging fans from shopping experience, virtual. Again, this is more around virtual. The last two are around virtual shopping experiences, right? Typically, these fans are very gung ho about the brands, etc., and hence these provide the shopping experience to a next level. And Verizon recently had launched a 5G super stadium experience, and this across 5-6 stadiums that has been that have been kind of launched. So starting from stadium Wi-Fi, mobile connectivity, IPTV, right? All of these experiences have been bundled within the Verizon Super Stadium experience, right? And it also provide cloud-based voice and unified communications experience, right? All of these are blended in the recent Verizon Super Stadium. So and this is a view of just another view of how all of these technologies for one fan attending in one day, right? Starting from attending a match to from him transporting, then getting to a vehicle, and how he gets guidance to smart parking, how he can get guidance to seat navigation, then how he gets into watching with an AR VR. In addition to the real experience, he also blends that with the match replays, player stats, how in seat ordering, payment, and then engaging with social media, right, and also purchases, right? How all of these technologies can come together for one single match experience. Provided a kind of a workflow view of within one, like I said, within one day, how all of these technologies come together to make that experience for the fan a bit more smarter. Again, I kind of demystified that for both the AR experience as well as VR experience separately. In this time, I think I dwelt very deeply into the different aspects of what a smart stadium means, the different use cases, and what is happening in reality today across mostly across some of the in the US geo. Over the next the remainder will talk about how do you uh, each of these maybe simpler use cases when it is rendered to the customer, but behind them is each of those three or four technologies coming together, and how do we test for what do we need to test, and what are the challenges in testing and automating, especially if you have to automate, right? For each use case there may be 2-3 technologies that have to come together. So it may be IoT, maybe AR, VR, blending and coming together provide a use case. So how do you test and automate for those? What are the challenges behind those, right? And that is what we'll cover in the remainder of these slides. Like I said, starting with the fan experience, what do we need to test? We need to test for AR, VR, MR assurance. I talked about personalized targeted advertisement, so ad validation, personalization of ad validation. I spoke about the AR VR providing AR VR experience, providing you a live streaming, providing you through multiple angles, etc. And all of this, the fundamental backbone behind this is the 5G network, the edge, right? So we need to do for the 5G, the testing, leveraging the 5G, and all of this is delivered all of this is delivered in the form of CGI, in the form of video, video and audio, right? Largely video, right? And so video, audio rendering, video, audio quality, all of those needs to be all of those needs to be tested, right? Similarly, likewise, there are a lot of mobile, there is a lot of web interaction in this outside the stadium, so those also needs to be tested, right? And all of this needs to be tested both from a functional as well as usability as well as from performance. Again, the usability aspect of it is much different from the usability aspect in an AR VR experience, in a 5G experience, in a 5G powered AR VR experience, for example, is much different than traditional web or mobile app testing. Right? I'll dwell on that in a little deeper as I move across the subsequent slides. Yeah, just to summarize the different types of testing. So we for the smart stadium experience, AR VR is AR VR, IoT wearables, testing for the 5G network, stadium mobile applications, ad validation, video audio quality engineering, third party app integration, social integration, non-functional, across all of these different dimensions. Right, these are the 8 different dimensions in which we need to test for the smart stadium experience. What I will do is I'll probably skip something like a stadium mobile which may be just a traditional, just like any other mobile app. I'll probably skip the third-party app integration, right? Maybe those items I'll probably skip, and I'll focus on the items that are differential, which is AR, VR, IoT, 5G, right? And what do we need to test in these unique areas, right? From an AR, VR assurance. Just give me a second. From an AR/VR assurance standpoint, in addition to testing that the basic functionality is working, there are a lot of testing nuances, right, when it comes to validating both the augmented and the virtual experience, right? When the augmented virtual experience is provided to the fan, they also have the ability to interact with it. It's just not a one way. It could, I mean, it could be a one way. It could also be a dual interactive way. When it's a dual and interactive way, interactive experience, we need to test very particularly for how that interaction is happening between the human and the AR VR experience that is being rendered. Typically, in a web or a mobile app, right, the user is limited with a set of clicks, a set of drop downs, a set of fields in which they can interact, and they can engage. So you can control the user experience. Whereas in the case of AR VR, you cannot control the user experience, right? And hence that system interaction needs to be tested very thoroughly, and keeping in mind that that interaction can be from two dimensions. It can be through a console of the AR VR. Second, it can also be through the voice command. So both of those needs to be kind of tested thoroughly. Second aspect I'd like to touch on is the augmented virtual experience. They need to respond differently based on the location, depending on a particular seat that I'm sitting in, depending on a particular location, depending on a particular geo. Across all of these different dimensions, the AR VR experience needs to have some customization, some customized experience. It may not be the same across two different people, across two different locations or two different seats, right? So it kind of needs to be tested at least for a certain number of good permutation combinations, right? So that when the fan keeps navigating within a stadium, he has that AR VR experience, and he walks across the stadium, then the location, according to the location, that experience and what he may see as a geo support kind of is rendered accurately, needs to be tested thoroughly, right? The third important aspect is while a complete virtual experience may be rendered, right? Let's say in kind of training sessions, or when it's a complete virtual experience, a pure virtual experience that is provided, we need to make sure that the laws of physics, laws of nature are not surpassed, right? An object can only fall down due to gravity. It cannot just simply fall upwards, right? So things like that needs to be. I know it sounds like a simple use case, but there are more and more such laws of physics that needs to be kind of valid to make sure that they are not bypassed when a virtual experience is being built, right? Subsequently, typical to any device. I know this started with mobile. Typical to any device, we need to test for compatibility. But again, while in a mobile, the best case was like a video experience that was tested here. It is more of a three-dimensional experience that needs to be tested, so that the three-dimensional experience, the CGI, video rendering, all of those needs to be tested thoroughly from a compatibility standpoint. And the second dimension of it is network, right? Again, testing for various speeds of network. We may have tested this for traditional mobile, but again here it takes one notch up, because you're talking about a more of a triangulated experience, right? In traditional, in web or mobile, it is a dual experience where it's interaction of an application with the end user. Now you're talking about it that bundled with the device, and the device playing a very prominent role in rendering the experience, like much more than how it works for a mobile. So that needs to be tested both from a compatibility combined with the network assurance standpoint. All of this needs to be tested from a performance standpoint, because a lot of this will be delivered through a cloud-based experience. The scalability of that, like I said, the latency for the CGI and the framework for the visuals across different stress conditions, all of those needs to be tested thoroughly. Like I said, this brings the third dimension, right? The mobile, up to the mobile, it was a two-dimension, and now this is a third dimension, and the complexity of it becomes multifold with this third dimension coming in. Next is IoT. maybe just try and try moving a bit faster. From an IoT standpoint, I talked about the smart parking. I talked about smart seat identification, etc. Right? These are simpler use cases when they are delivered to the customer, but behind this lies a lot of data collection, a lot of data storage, aggregation, analytics, and then the insight given back to the individual. Right? We need to test across each of these layers, starting from data collection to storage to aggregation to analytics that is rendered. Right? Each dimension in itself needs to be tested, and that needs to be tested for different kind of those IoT devices that may be rendering that experience. Another important aspect is all of this experience cannot be, or none of this experience can be delivered. Very little can be delivered without the backbone, of 5G, and that is where testing for the 5G becomes very important, right? Be it live broadcasting being delivered through this augmented or virtual experiences. We need to test across multiple layers, the 5G NR layer, for the 5G MEC layer, the 5G core network. Across all of these different dimensions, we need to test across these different dimensions. We need to test for the SLAs that are guaranteed from a bandwidth standpoint, we need to test for the SLAs that are guaranteed from a latency standpoint, right? Because, like I said, all of these AR/VR experience are dependent on this bandwidth and latency. So, right from mobile signal collection to agile video production to live broadcasting app, all of these needs to be tested for these different layers of like I said, of the 5G and the MEC and the core network. Right? This 5G again brings a lot of complexity into the testing. And a lot of this 5G experience is not delivered in a traditional way, and the network behind this 5G cannot be rendered in the traditional way, right? And that is where smart stadiums or experience that are provided. The backbone behind this is not only 5G. The backbone is also having shifted into software-defined networks or networks function virtualization. So SD and NFV is the backbone behind this 5G, and that also needs to be tested, right, from deployment validation to orchestration, right, across all of these different dimensions. It needs to be tested. Other validation areas, right? So I touched on like I said, I touched on the top two areas: AR, VR, 5G, and SD and NFV, and right, virtualized network. What do we need to test? And I also touched on the IoT aspect of it. Beyond this, like I said, there is a traditional mobile app that needs to be tested. The mobile app for the betting, for the payments, for personalized experience that are delivered to the customer through the mobile app. So there you have a lot of use cases to be tested. In addition, you also have to test for video, audio quality, engineering, resolutions, bitrate variations, right? Distortion of the video, quality of experience when the video is being rendered. Right, again, there is a lot of statistics behind measuring how the quality of experience is, right? And especially in many of these, or at least in 50% of these features, it is not just functionality; it's actually experience that is the functionality that is being delivered, right? So all of this needs to be tested. Ads needs to be tested. Beacons validation needs to be tested, etc. So these are all the multiple dimensions in which the testing needs to be performed. These areas I didn't dwell deep because these have, although these are relevant to the smart stadium, these kind of testings have already exist today. With that, I will hand over to Senthil. Senthil, over to you for explaining the automation approach, the challenges.
Yeah. Thanks, Vinod. So far, Vinod had pretty much covered on the various aspects of the use cases and what are the different testing and how are the different touch points, right? So what we have combined together in a holistic view here is basically the core automation framework. What we see in the left part of the slide is basically on the core automation framework, which is getting extended to the AR VR and also on the IoT standpoint. So pretty much we are having the core libraries, and with the core libraries basically will be extended to the augmented reality and the virtual reality, wherein the device motion controller or the visual simulator controller. Apart from which, for a given stadium experience, right? So when a perspective is being defined, so basically, uh, the augmented reality app, which is going to be the application under test, these images are being captured, as well as the different perspectives are being simulated. Yeah. So once each images have been captured, the various images have been processed into the AML computer vision integration, wherein the image comparison libraries and the image verification libraries will provide us what is the confidence level of these images, and basically the position of each and every and element. So with that, the framework which is being extended will be able to provide us the different validations and the libraries as part of the test scripts integrated. Apart from which, as we talked about, the base code for all these is the 5G in place. So the one other use case that we took in is on the seat management system, wherein a specific vendor was interested in what is a hot seat basically for a given venue. So the data had been provided to one of the cloud. In our scenario, we took the AWS IoT in this example, wherein the data was fed, wherein the data was collected, and once the data was collected, there was the cleansing and other aspects of it which been passed into this framework to come up with what are the different areas wherein the end results are going to be integrated and validated across. Yeah. So this current framework, what we basically intend is, since we had implemented for using the one of the cloud provider with AWS, and also it is extendable across the other cloud providers as well. Let's move on. Can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, that's pretty much.
Senthil, if you want to explain this, the
Yeah.
setup.
So this is basically a setup which we had in as a physical setup in one of our libraries basically. So what we have basically here is we have this primary challenge is the simulating the AR/VR content, wherein the one of the option one is basically mounted on a tripod with a camera onto an augmented reality app, and subsequently the line of sight is passed to the visual simulator, which in wherein you can see a display hang to it. So this is one of the options that we had, and the second one is basically to have it with simulation of the different orientation of the images being observed when a particular app is being controlled, right? So that is the option two, wherein we are using a three-axis gimbal, or called the remotely controlled things, which will basically simulate the different orientations of the particular application in the test, which is then passed into the vision control libraries, wherein we have taken the, as I said, right, we had taken the AWS recognition engine, and during the uh, wherein we will not be able to validate with some libraries, or we don't have the better confidence level. We are also using with the image comparison libraries, which is also like for example a SQLi. Yeah. So with this fold, so what basically we are able to do is like this involves the two components, and the practical scenarios where the AML based libraries had insufficient training, we had used the image comparison libraries as well. So in terms of how AR, VR, and the automation solution to the core automation framework exist, is basically on the device controller, and to tilt and pitch the different orientation of the movement and placement of the objects, basically. So in this case example that we took, we had processed the rendered image, and after user movement, the vision libraries and the identified object positions were validated. So the confidence level and the percentage that we were able to get was promising. Um, Remove them. Yeah. So these are the different ways that the object and detection will be able to get it. Wherein the movement detection in the image here, right? So we have taken one of the use case here with a car, wherein the right image is just zoomed out, zoomed in, wherein the percentage confidence to the left and y is basically 27 percentage. So this is the movement detection that has been basically validated across, apart from the image comparison things. Can you move to the next slide? Apart from which, this is one another use case for whatever we talked about related to the objects that we are seeing, referring to, wherein the detection and even the text aspects of it is something that we will be able to validate using the object being placed. So these are the pretty much we have covered. These are the challenges and benefits that we were able to get in terms of the overall experience in 30% reduction in testing effort and 50% reduction in the regression cycle time. This is a quick demo that we would like to show based as part of the. As you can see, this is an core automation framework that we have. As you can see, the execution has kick-started. What we can see is an app which is currently being opened from a mobile augmented reality and being placed in a real world living room where the object is being placed, and basically we are placing it, and then uh, these images have been sent back to the image comparison libraries to validate, wherein we can see that the chair whichever is being placed within the TV, which is being showed here as 95 percentage confidence level. With this, uh, thanks for STC for providing presenting our paper in the STEAM platform.
One more quick point to add. I think just to summarize from a challenges standpoint, this whole smart stadium involves being able to simulate the AR VR stream within a lab. The challenge lies within that, and the permutation of combinations that needs to be tested is humongous. Hence, automation is important. And like we said, the ability to simulate all of this within a lab was the challenge, and that is what we've shown. A demo of how we've been able to simulate that, and also how we've been able to automate it, how we made automated leveraging some of the technologies such as cloud, the traditional automation framework, on top of which we have leveraged the capabilities of AI, ML, vision libraries, and also integrate with the IoT framework. The demo that you saw was purely from the AR VR standpoint, but the automation framework that we explained kind of touches on both aspects of the traditional. It covers the traditional mobile automation. It covers the traditional. Sorry, it covers the AR VR framework, and it also covers the IoT framework. The demo that you saw was more focused on the AR VR aspect of it, which is where the 90% of that experience is finally delivered to the fan, and hence we kind of showed the demo specific to that aspect. But for all of this smart stadium experience to be assured and automated, it is necessary to bring all of these all of the three into a common one integrated framework, and that is what we've done here. Thank you for the opportunity.